Of three, Kouri Richins, taken from this world way too soon. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, I want to continue the coverage of Kouri Richins, the Utah mother who is accused of murdering her spouse, Kouri Richins, and authoring a children's book centered around the theme of sorrow and engage in some comprehensive internet-based investigation. That's what our focus is today. She did some Google searches around this case before he died, after he died, and allegedly she's the murderer. She took his life. And so we're going to dive into what we know. And is her defense actually arguing for bail? Let's dive into it and find out what we know at this time. The Utah mother of three, Kouri Richins, who is accused of murdering her spouse and writing a children's book centered around a theme of sorrow. She is said to have engaged in comprehensive internet-based searches subsequent to his demise. This research, it shows all the various topics, including luxury prisons for the rich, and how long it takes life insurance companies to pay. These were some of her search engine results as to what we continue to find out. And so one of those is that she actually typed in luxury prisons for the rich. She was referring to herself, I'm guessing, as a rich person. Does that mean she thought she was going to get this estate of his? Again, because she changed the life insurance policy on him, and then later it was changed without her knowing. She was completely caught off guard. But she even went to the internet and asked how long it takes life insurance companies to pay. Now, I don't know when this particular search was done. I don't know how long after the alleged murder. I don't know. But the 33-year-old mother of three, who has been charged with murder after she allegedly slipped 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl into a Moscow Mule that she mixed for her husband, Kouri Richins, in March of 2022. Then she has this Google history that includes disturbing searches around this alleged murder. And so she scours the internet for different things that she went and typed into the search engine. And so she's, looking for information about Utah penitentiaries as well as luxury prisons for the rich in America. Okay, she's a US citizen. She was born on this soil, right? And so she went to the internet and typed in luxury prisons for the rich in America. That's according to many news outlets that have shared some of the things that we continue to find out about her. And Richins, she researched whether investigators can see deleted message, how long life insurance companies take to pay claimants, whether police can force you to take a lie detector test, and if the cause of death can be changed on a death certificate. That's what KTVX has reported. Let me ask you this, my friends. If this is true, and again, why would investigators share this stuff allegedly, however this stuff gets out, right? But how did KTVX get this information if they didn't have an inside source? Again, you got to take all of this with a grain of salt. Let's be real, right? You just never know where everyone's getting their information from, including myself, including all the internet true crime people, right? you always got to take this with a bit of grain of salt. I'm not a detective. I am going off of internet stuff, right? I don't just look at one and say I'm running with it. I actually try to dig a little deeper into where this information could be coming from. But I use a lot of different news outlets. And that's, basically what Kouri's doing her research to see what the internet is telling her, right? And so you always got to take this stuff with a grain of salt because you don't know where they're getting it from. But let me ask you this. Why would she type luxury prisons for the rich in America? Why would she type that? Because she knew something was not going right. Is that not a fair statement? She knew that they were probably catching up to her a little bit, right? Because she even viewed an article. Now, this is an article that was titled Signs of Being Under Federal Investigation. Why would she type that? Why would she read that article? That's just my question to you. She even reads another article that is headlined Delay in Claim Payment for Death Certificate with Pending Cause of Death. Why would she type that? Why would she read this article? Because it's obviously related to the death of her husband, Eric Richins. Because she is wondering, why could there be a delay in the payment that I'm waiting for my husband, right? There's a pending cause of death. Obviously, she's reading that for a particular reason. Is that not a fair statement? That's my thought process on it. But please, 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 let me know your thought process on this. Okay? Because she's in court, she's saying that she's innocent of all of this. That's normally what they do, right? Of course they're innocent through this. Her defense is even arguing for her. They're thinking like, hey, my client should be getting bail. They believe that, right? And so they argue for her in her defense to give her bail. And so there was a hearing because, again, she's charged with murder and drug possession. And, she was listening intently. I watched the video of her in court. So it was on Court TV. You can go check out courttv.com to check out the video of her sitting there looking just like this. But her defense argued for her, which is normal, right? They believe that she should be released on bail for the duration of the trial. Unless she's found to be suicidal, should she even get bail though? Even if she's not found to be suicidal, should she be out? Here's the truth. If prosecutors, my truth, I guess, if prosecutors have more than, right now, search engines, that's not an end all be all. Okay, the defense can use that. She's doing this research for her side of things, right? Oh, they're coming after me. Let me see what they can try to bring at me so I can be ready. Who knows what the defense can say? But they have the right to ask, right? Because again, she's charged with murder. She's charged with drug possession, right? And so they were asking, like who CL is. I believe that's who they were saying. That's someone that she was getting the drugs from. CL is in the charging documents. And I've gone through it, and they're asking, like, CL, was she arrested? Yes, CL was arrested in this. Does CL show any signs of remorse? Does CL feel bad? And from what they were sharing, it does sound like she's having a lot of remorse. Yes, CL is a female that was friends. Allegedly, she has a lot of remorse. She has some motivational signs on her mirror. She has a picture of an article of Eric Richins. It sounds like she's dealing with a lot of internal grief because she supplied the drugs. She helped procure the drugs that this girl was allegedly wanting to kill her husband. But again, right now it does not look good. I'm gonna say no, she should not have bail because it does not look like she has a leg to stand on right now. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments. Because prosecutors, that's who was questioned. They questioned the lead detective, and the lead detective is the one that was sharing. So they questioned the lead detective in the investigation into her husband's death. And throughout this, as a rap gallery, inside this gallery, you can see behind them, literally, you can see there's so many people in the gallery, and it's made up of locals, including employees of Kouri Richins' construction company, who sat behind her. Okay, now Richins, she was seen grabbing tissues and showing that she might be crying. She's probably, who knows, right? I don't know. I'm not gonna speak for her. I don't know. Right now, it just doesn't look good for her. But she is seen grabbing tissues. She inhaled deeply as Detective Jeff O'Driscoll testified about the drugs that authorities believe were used to kill Kouri Richins. And she kneeled her head and was crying when they talked about finding him cold to the touch. That is the one term we've heard over and over through this. I've been continuing the coverage of this heinous crime. And the very first thing it was when they got there, he was cold to the touch. Now, prosecutors say in court documents that Richins slipped 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl into his Moscow Mules, as I shared a little earlier. Now, it is said that they were having marital disputes and fights over a multi-million-dollar mansion that she would later purchase as an investment. And she would even turn around, and it's listed at what would be a great profit on this home. But that's where this all starts crumbling on her. You see, this case, which has become a true crime fixation, as you can see, I'm covering it. Many people have covering it. As soon as I heard about this story, I covered it right away, because this is one of the most heinous crimes. As you know, if you follow this channel any, my goal is to keep you aware of what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. And we find out that Eric, he was concerned about his life. He was concerned about what she could potentially do to him, to the point he even spoke to his sister and said, if anything happens to me. So the red flags were already there. He was worried about his life. And so he already knew, I better protect myself and I better be ready that something might happen. He didn't protect his life in a sense to make sure he stays alive, because why would he continue to accept any friggin' drink? Because there was signs and there has been said that even beforehand, he told someone else about, I think she's trying to poison me. Why would he take that drink? I don't know. I'm glad that he left the trace to say, here my killer is. So there's probably going to be a show about how I caught my killer, because he caught his killer, allegedly. And so she researches these deleted, these ways, like, whether investigators can delete messages, how long life insurance companies to pay claimants. I shared that with you. But why would she also do searches of signs of being under federal investigation? Like, why would she type that? Why would she type that if there was nothing there? Right? And so that is where it's like, hey, why would she want to type that? Because she was worried about something, right? She was worried about something, obviously. Again, she writes this book, right? She writes a book about this, right? It's a tear-jerker, kids book about coping with loss. She says she does this for her kids to help them deal with this. And the name of the book is Are You With Me? She's, said to even have access to an article about how to hire someone to write a book for you. So she was on the internet quite a bit. She also searched multiple times about whether her family had even donated to the Summit County Police Department. Literally, she researched that. Okay? I mean, that's the type of stuff. She even had some more mundane searches that said even how to undo microblading. What kind of doctor was Dr. Pepper? Lil Nas X married? Right? Those were some of her searches. That's some of the stuff that she did. She even searched, is naloxone, I don't even know, naloxone? I don't know what that is. Similar to, you can see what it said. But she typed that into Google. And of course, a criminal, her defense attorney, they're gonna say, this is nothing, right? I don't think it's insignificant, is what he said, right? But there's nothing really there that says my client could have done this crime, right? I think there's nothing there that indicates guilt. That's what he said. Those were his exact words. I think there's nothing there that indicates guilt. Okay, well, I don't feel like that does indicate guilt at all, right? I don't think that says anything. She even typed, what is considered non-natural manner of death? That's literally what she also typed as well into Google. And she even typed Kouri Richins, net worth. I've never did that for myself, but I've never messed with millions and millions of dollars at a time, right? So that, why would that have anything to do with it? Or maybe it has something to do with it, but the timing. Did she do it right after he died and she thought, wow, I'm about to be rich? Kouri Richins, net worth? We don't really know when she did that so much. But we do know that she did some other crazy stuff, right? Because prosecutors, they said that Richins, she took out a $250,000 home equity line of credit and spent it. Stole about $134,000 from Eric's business, withdrew $100,000 from his bank accounts, and spent more than $30,000 with his credit cards. Okay, the question here though is, when did she do that? Did she do that while he was alive? Because she's gonna have recourse to say that I had permission to do this. Or did she do this right after he died and she went crazy because she had access to everything? I don't really know. A lot of these answers are going to come up in court. Literally, it will come up in court. But you can see where the prosecutor was asking the detective questions. And now Eric, he learned about his wife's secret financial decisions in September of 2020. And then he goes and meets with a divorce lawyer and estate planner the next month. And so that's what her plan was. That's what he was learning about in those times. So he learns about all these secret financial decisions that she was trying to do. And how she meets with a divorce lawyer and how she meets with an estate planner. And so they're learning about all this stuff. But Eric, before his death, he had recently cut his wife out of his will and changed his life insurance policy. The problem is she didn't know that. As he was, as he sought a divorce, he was ready to get out of it. And so she tries to name herself the beneficiary of that policy. But then she was caught by the business partner and him, like, hey, what's going on here? And so without her knowing, he reverses it back, and then he even adds his sister to the plan. That's why there's a fight later between her and the sister, because that's when she finds out, what in the world? I don't get all of this stuff. You see, they had been fighting over Eric's $3.6 million estate since his death. And so it's his family versus her. And so there was a big old scrap fight, and even the police were called. His sisters told police that Richins had previously tried to poison him, including on a trip to Greece. And so, like I said, he warned his family that if anything happened to him, she was to blame. He already knew something was not right. And so Eric, he also had reason to believe that his wife had carried out a lengthy affair during his marriage. Again, that's what his family is kind of sharing. So again, we always got to take these things with a grain of salt, but right now, anything is possible. But truth is, let's take, for example, her day in court, when she was in court, as the image I just shared with you. When she's in court, she's talking about CL, right? Or the law enforcement, the detective is talking about CL while he's on his stand. And he refers to, oh, well, there was supposed to be money on the thing and there was nothing there. So then they go to her house and writes the check from her business. At the same time, she's shaking her head. That didn't happen that way. So do we believe her there? I don't know what to believe. I always do believe, though, nothing is as what it says. Maybe there's a little truth, but not the whole truth. Maybe she wrote a check and it wasn't as much. I don't know. There should be proof of that check, though. But when we go to the trial, because this most likely is going to go to trial. This most likely will see it through all the way to the end till her jury of peers tell their verdict. And so we find out that, that she allegedly poisons him a final time between the night of March 3rd and early March 4th of 2022. And she tells investigators that they had celebrated plans to purchase a $2 million home, but investigators later learned that she had placed two $900 orders for fentanyl pills from a drug dealer, right? So they have CL, they have a third person who is part of this drug buy-in part, who also ends up facing charges, and Richins herself is charged with this first-degree aggravated murder charge and multiple counts of second-degree possession of a controlled substance with the intent to distribute. And so, with that also being said, the other two, the CL and the person that's responsible for helping bring these drugs in to the whole picture, they're not facing any murder charges by any means. This is the home as part of the center of this whole case. And this home, it's been out there. It's like a mansion. It's been out there. Once one person bought it with the intention of doing some big things, and then there was a death, and then he was like, I'm done. I want to just write this off. Give me a good deal. Here you go. And then she's like, we want it. And then Eric's like, I don't think this is a great move. And she's like, basically, she's going to do whatever she has to do to get this property. And we first hear they're celebrating the purchase of a property. This is the said property that they were supposed to be celebrating. What we don't know is they weren't really celebrating. She most likely concocted that story. And so that's why this is such a big news story that's out there, right? Because why would she want to do that? Now, Summit County Chief Prosecutor Patricia Cassell, she said that she planned to question multiple witnesses yesterday, or today is Monday, today at the hearing. The hearing was early in the morning, and you can already watch it. And prosecutors, they painted a picture of a conniving woman who tried to kill her husband. And so that is exactly what she is looking like right now. Like, she tried to do this. And so, of course, that's what prosecutors are going to do, right? And so they're going to portray her as that person, because they're saying that she even tried lacing a Valentine's Day sandwich with hydrocodone and repeatedly denied her involvement on the day of his death in March of 2022, even telling police, "My husband is active. He doesn't just die in his sleep. This is insane." That's true. He doesn't just die in his sleep. And so now, one of the things that Kouri Richins' attorney is arguing is, there's a call for her release, that he's like, let her go. This call for bail was done this past Friday. And so, because they're arguing that the evidence against her is all circumstantial because police never seized fentanyl from the family home. They also called into question the credibility of the key witnesses. Again, CL and that third party, I believe, the person who helped get that as well, who brought the drugs into the picture. And so they're gonna question the credibility of a drug dealer, right? And so that's why it's like, hey, the credibility of the key witnesses, it's expected to support the prosecutor's request to keep her in custody. But, the attorneys, they said prosecutors simply accepted the narrative from Eric Richins' family that his wife had poisoned him and worked backward in an effort to support it by spending about 14 months investigating and finding no evidence to support their theory. That's what the attorneys are saying. That's what her attorneys, you see right there, are saying. Of course, they have to have something that they're going to operate around this whole thing to help get a not guilty plea, right? Now, this case, this also shines a spotlight on Kamas, Utah, right? Which, I'm not too familiar, but it's known as an agricultural town on the backside of Utah's Wasatch Mountains near Park City. And it's considered one of the America's West preeminent destination if you want to do any skiing, hiking, any outdoor recreation, any of that stuff. And the couple and their 3 sons lived in a new development in the town of Francis, which is about, something like 80 kilometers, which is equal to 50 miles east of Salt Lake City in Utah. Now, Salt Lake City, as we know, is a very popular city. Now, if this case does happen to go to trial, which I truly believe that it will go to trial, it's gonna really come down to the unidentified informant who prosecutors say sold Richins the drugs that medical examiners later found in her husband's system. Again, she herself said he's too healthy to die in his sleep. So it's going to come down to CL. It's going to come down to the person who also got it. It's going to come down to the text messages. If there's a boyfriend, it's going to come down to some side, whatever he had on the side. Because, come on, if she's speaking, someone knows, right? And so charging documents and warrants, it details interviews in which the informant said she sold Richins hydrocodone, I don't know how to pronounce that too well, and fentanyl in the weeks and months before her husband's death. And so prosecutors, of course, they're going to say that, the drug purchase timeline corresponds with his death and their allegation that his wife had laced that sandwich weeks before on Valentine's Day, where she lays it in her car on the seat with a little touchy love note. And so after he survived that first alleged poisoning, she asked for that stronger stuff with a text message that is said to be some of the Michael Jackson stuff. And now there is some not too sure if it was a text or a phone call, or even according to CL. Not too sure if it was a text or a phone call. Now, when Michael Jackson died of cardiac arrest in 2009, medical examiners, they found prescription drugs and powerful anesthetics in his system, not fentanyl. So why would she throw that stuff out there? Allegedly. Right? Now, charging documents also say that the case likely will revolve around financial and marital disputes as a motive in this case. The couple had argued about this purchase of that 20,000 square foot home that I showed you, right? They literally argued about that over and over. He was against it. He did not think it was a good deal. Now, the way it's up and allegedly probably it might have been actually like an offer's been made. There might be contracts going through. Normally that stuff takes a little while, so it could have gone out there. But what we are finding is that it's, or she could have probably profited. Maybe it was a good deal, but he was against it. But she wasn't having any of it. And so prosecutors say that Kouri Richins made major changes to the family estate plans before his death, taking out that life insurance policy on him with benefits totaling $2 million. And so that's where it's like, that's where I shared with you. They're alleging that she did all of this stuff. You know, the home equity line of credit, $100,000. Like, that's a lot of money that she did in a very short period of time. And so some of these allegations, they correspond to, you know, civil court filings that have been submitted in different cases after his death, in which his blood relatives, sister and widowed wife, filed competing claims over how to split a masonry business with his former partner and whether Kouri can benefit from a trust set aside for his next of kin. And so that's where those legal battles are in this case. And so now we just continue to find out, like, why and what is next for Kouri Richins. So, my friends, I want to know what you think about this crazy story. Do you think she has a leg to stand on? Do you think that she is guilty? I'm going to say, granted, I know that you're guilty until you're innocent until proven guilty. I'm not seeing an innocent lady here. And it's easy because obviously they're going to have negative things against her. But it's like Barry Morphew, you know, who was arrested. I read the charging documents. It's all over my channel, right? But here's the truth. During that, I was like, I just don't know how they have enough to say he's guilty. They had a lot of circumstantial stuff. Guess what? They dropped the case. He most likely got his bail money back. And because and they even gave him bail. That just didn't seem like it was a substantial locking case. And so, what do we have here? Let me know your thoughts on what do you think we have in this particular case. Let me know in the comments. I'm Manny Rodriguez. My friends, that's the whole purpose of this channel, to keep you aware of what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. Eric had his ideas, but he probably also said, no way, my wife can't do that to me. That only happens in the movies. That only happens to others, right? But the signs were there, and we wish he was here today. Rest in peace, Eric Richins. Taken from this world way too soon. Until next time, my friends, peace.